If you found $100 on the street, would you pick it up or keep walking? Of course you take the money. So why do you keep picking winners and not betting on them? That's why I go to MyBookie. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay you when you win. Let's face it, guys, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. So do the smart thing this football season. If you're going to bet with MyBookie. Did you know you could bet on games after kickoff? If by the second half it looks like you're going to lose your bet, you can always just take the other side at MyBookie. Join now and MyBookie will double your first deposit. Use promo code Detroit100 to activate the offer. That's promo code DETROIT100. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid.
Fellas, I want to tell you about a product that can improve your performance in the bedroom. And what better way to improve the quality of your life than to please the woman of your dreams? Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. Blue Chew is the fast and easy solution for any man looking to enhance their performance and step up their game. You don't have to be one of those guys that finishes quickly, or you don't have to be one of those guys that, at the end of the day, regrets not having a great sex life. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package, so no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code DETROIT. All you got to do is pay the $5 shipping and handling fee. Again, that's BlueChew.com. Promo code Detroit to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Oh my God!
Welcome, everybody, to the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 98. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On this week's episode, Triple H doubles down on Vince. We also have the man controversy. We're going to discuss that, an update on Sheamus and his health, as well as the case of a missing championship belt, which doesn't appear to be missing anymore. We'll get you filled in on that. Of course, we're going to discuss All Elite Wrestling's All Out pay-per-view, as well as review Raw and SmackDown. Doing it with me, as always, he is the one, he is the only, he is the man, Ric Flair. Go ahead and file some trademark lawsuits on this one. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Man, a jam-packed wrestling podcast. Looking forward to it. Man, what a week of wrestling. I took in All Out, and hey, you know, between you and I took it in the best way possible, baby.
Yeah, I
was in the big house. I sent you a link, and you were like, oh, good on you, cuz. You're a good man, and we both got an opportunity to watch AEW's All Out. Can we start there?
Yeah, let's start there. Overall, what'd you think of the show, real quick?
Okay, I thought that riding into this pay-per-view, AEW had all the momentum. They were checking off all the boxes. They were doing a lot of things correctly. Now, after this show, I seen some things that I could critique, and it involves some psychology of wrestling, the timing of shows, the length of shows, the manner in which Cody Rhodes planned his entrance could have been a lot better. There were a little bit of mistakes in terms of who went over. And so for me, I gave the whole show a B-. I thought the show should have outdid the previous pay-per-views, but it didn't. And it kind of now brought back, and with the news that you're going to share in regards to Chris Jericho, I think AEW slipping up just a little bit on the finer details of things. For example, okay, now obviously there are a lot of fans of the Young Bucks and their matches, okay? Now, for me, I wasn't someone that was really exposed to the Young Bucks prior to 2018. I went to a late show of Ring of Honor, I think in late 2017. I became aware of the Young Bucks, got an opportunity to meet them, take a photo with them and Cody Rhodes, got an opportunity to talk with them and their passion. Obviously, great workers. But now, in terms of seeing their first matches, they're all kind of the same. And so I'm looking at it and I go, okay, yes, it's entertaining. It's great to see a bunch of spots over and over and over again. But match in, match out, when there's no real psychology going on, it makes it for kind of a repetitive matchup when you see the same kind of match with the Young Bucks. And here's the thing, too. Part of me in the art of wrestling is selling. Okay, So one of the Young Bucks takes a Canadian Destroyer off the ladder, and then he's right back up. And then, something that I don't know if people paid attention to is after Chris Jericho wins the title, he does this backstage segment on YouTube. I don't know if you caught it, if you've gone over there and seen what happened after the pay-per-view went off the air. The Young Bucks are just standing there, and Jericho goes over to them, and they just got their hand out, and they don't look like they've been in a death match. They don't sell that they've been in this brutal matchup. So I think with the Young Bucks, the art of professional wrestling a little bit. Right now, I can see where people would say, okay, it's a spot fest, and you need to sell a little bit more. You need to act like you were in a death match, ladder match. You need to act like that. You don't take where do you go from there when you take a Canadian Destroyer off the ladder and you're still going on and you're doing more moves and it's like spot. And then that's their matchups, time in and time out. And what happens is if you're going to do that, a match like that either should go first or last, because then it takes away from how the crowd is going to react to the main event. And I'm always of the opinion that the main event should have the hottest crowd, especially when it's your first ever crowning of a champion. I thought that the crowd was pretty much flat and wasn't into the Jericho match at all, and it was a good match. So I thought the timing was wrong. And then, like some finer points, I thought that SCU winning was wrong. I thought the other teams should have been put over. And then my biggest mistake, the thing that bothered me the most was you can't have a dog near Pyro. That should never happen. Someone with a right mind should go, did we not test this? Literally, you got Cody Rhodes standing there, his music's playing, and the dog is like not having it, and it made it for an awkward entrance when it needed to be a marquee, flawless situation. So some minor mistakes happened in that show, and overall, the length of the show was just too long. But there were a lot of things to like about that pay-per-view in terms of the matches, the ring psychology, the women, Chris Jericho being the first champion. All in all, if you sat and invested in it and you were all about it, it was good. I just felt like compared to AEW standards, they fell short.
Yeah, I would give it a B. If we had to give it a letter grade, I would give it a B. Again, I crushed WWE on the lengths of their pay-per-views. I'm going to crush AEW on the length of their pay-per-view as well. This was 5 hours long, way too long. I kept looking at my clock. I was watching the Michigan game on my big screen. I was watching AEW All Out on my laptop, and the Michigan game goes off air, and I'm like, all right, cool. So this should be wrapping up here shortly. And it was like an hour and a half later, I was still watching it. I was like, holy hell, what is going on here? I had to start watching some USC football game on television because I needed something else to keep me occupied here, because this was just going on forever. And you're right. The placing of matches, this is what WWE screws up on a lot of times, is the placing of matches. And it's it's going to be a spot fest when you've got the Lucha Bros and you've got Matt and Nick Jackson going at it, and there's ladders involved. It's going to be a spot fest. Why would you have that be the match right before your first ever AEW championship match? And here's the thing. This is going to be the issue that AEW is going to have to overcome. The average fan has no idea who Hangman Page is. The average fan has no clue who this guy is. Hangman Page, I think Adam Page is a very good wrestler, but when you put him in a spot with a guy like Chris Jericho, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, I really don't, because I think he's a fantastic wrestler, and he really seems like he's an even better person in real life. Hangman Page shouldn't even be carrying Chris Jericho's boots. Like they're not even in the same stratosphere. So I get what you're trying to do by giving him the rub by wrestling Chris Jericho. It wasn't a great match. It really wasn't. When you look back on it, it was okay. It wasn't a great match, though. And that's to no fault of Adam Page or even Chris Jericho. It was a weird match. It felt disjointed. All that being said, Chris Jericho winning was the right decision. That was the right call.
Yep, the right
call.
That
was the right call. It just the way everything was laid out, right? That was going to be your main event. Cool. You should probably have opened with your ladder match. Yes. Is what you should probably have done.
Yes.
Or
after the ladder match, if you're going to keep it there, maybe you have the best friends match after that. Or a backstage segment or an interview.
Yes.
Something to kind of.
Or you could have even had Cody's match before the main event.
Yeah, potentially.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There were a couple of different things she could have did, and I think these are growing pains. I think these are things that they're going to learn. But I think a big issue that they're going to have is they don't have the roster that a WWE has.
Yeah, but a couple of the good things, though.
You've got to help elevate some of these guys.
Yes, a couple of the good things involve the debuts of Orange Cassidy and the Boricuas. That was great.
If you have no idea who LAX is from Impact, you're going to learn now because they're one of the best tag teams in all the world. WWE was hot after them. And it looks like they spurned WWE to go to AEW.
And the entrance was great. Santana and Ortiz, the Boricuas. And I think now, for sure, hands down, best tag team division in professional wrestling is in AEW. Hands down.
It's so deep.
Yes.
So deep.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What was your favorite match? What was the highlight for you?
Honestly, I really liked Kenny Omega and Pac. Now, I thought that Kenny Omega...
There was some good storytelling there. There was really good storytelling there.
I thought it was a great way to introduce Pac, and Kenny Omega right now kind of is in flux in AEW in that he's won some matches and lost some matches, but when you introduce someone like Pac, you instantly elevate him when he gets a win over Kenny Omega. So I thought the match was great psychology. I thought the spots were perfectly timed. And I really enjoyed that Pac went over because I was genuinely surprised. I really thought Omega was going to go over, and I thought it was the right thing to do. You got this debuting star. You've now elevated Pac, and backstage after the pay-per-view, he went after and now is probably going to have an enter into a feud with Hangman Page, and they can finally have their match for real this time.
Yeah. I thought that was an outstanding match. Just the psychology. You talked about psychology and the storytelling, right? Those are two key elements to wrestling. Those things are incredibly important, and I thought there was great storytelling here because the whole thing with Pac being the replacement for Jon Moxley and wrestling Kenny Omega is still so fixated on Jon Moxley that he underestimates Pac, and Pac gets a big win here. So it was a great way to put over Pac and to still keep the attention and the build for Jon Moxley and for Kenny Omega. I thought it was great storytelling. I thought that was outstanding. I really enjoyed the Cody Rhodes and Shawn Spears match. I thought that was a very good match. I thought it was interesting. His open was weird. I didn't really. It felt, again, certain things felt really disjointed with this pay-per-view. That opening felt disjointed for this pay-per-view. All that being said, though, I like that he chose MJF as his side general, his ring attendant, if you will. I like that. That's giving another guy a rub. That's helping build and elevate a guy, and I like to see that. I think that's awesome. I think Cody Rhodes has had probably the best string of matches for AEW since its inception. His match against Dustin is probably the best match I think we've seen in all of 2019. This right here was another great match, him and Shawn Spears. The fact that Arn Anderson comes out, it was great. I thought this was an outstanding match. That was probably my favorite match. Overall, like we said, this didn't hit the high notes that most AEW events and pay-per-views hit. This one felt just short, and it's kind of a letdown because they're setting up to go to television here in less than a month, and this was like the last big send-off. and it just kind of fell a little bit flat. So it's what it is. Again, growing pains for a brand new wrestling organization. These things are going to happen. It just happens that these are very out front and very public, and it's very in your face because it's high profile now. You know, everybody knows. If you're watching an Atlanta Braves game, you're seeing commercials. You know what I'm saying? If you're watching something, you know, you're watching Big Bang Theory on TBS, they're airing spots for their sister station on TNT with AEW. So it's all over the place, man. It's absolutely crazy. I was listening to Pandora the other day, and there was an AEW spot that popped up. It was nuts. I was like, what is going on here? It's absolutely crazy. So it's everywhere now. Everybody knows.
Yeah, this AEW has to fine-tune things just a little bit because it's a great pay-per-view, but one in which I feel like they could have done a lot more to elevate the brand, especially when you're charging $50. I mean, that's a lot of money, and you're now heading into TV. It's about to ramp up, so obviously having Jon Moxley be injured was a little bit of a letdown, but at the end of the day, it was a situation in which it was enjoyable. If you're a wrestling fan, tune in to All Out. All right, let's talk about and transition to talk about Raw and SmackDown. It was an interesting week in terms of storytelling in WWE, obviously highlighted by the fact that Bayley turned heel. I think that storyline overshadowed a lot of what happened this week. I thought it would never happen, and I liked the way they did it. It was really cool.
Dude, I never thought it was going to happen ever in my life. And it happening and the way it happened, I was like, oh, this is sweet. This is actually really, really cool. I will critique it this way, though. I will say that as it was unfolding, you could tell that what was going to happen, right? To me, she should have just snapped. Instead, she held the chair. She looked at the chair. She looked at Sasha, held the chair, looked at the chair, looked at Sasha. It just went on for way too long. I need you to snap, and I need you to take it all out on Becky's back. I didn't get that, and that was kind of a letdown for me, if I'm being honest, and if I'm critiquing this. Her doing it, though, I think is awesome. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. Like you said, I never thought we were going to get this, and the fact that we got it, I think is incredible, because this is the repackaging of a character that WWE has mishandled since she's been brought up to the main roster.
Yes. Now, here's what I would say, too. This is kind of fantasy booking here, but maybe, you need a faction. Maybe you call it the NWO, but you don't call it the New World Order. You get Sasha to have an epic promo. You bring out the third person, so it's going to be Sasha and Bayley versus Charlotte and Becky with a third partner, and potentially it's going to be surprise, and whoever that third person is, you call it the NWO, the New Women's Order of wrestling.
Ooh, I like that.
See, and then you could bring it back, or bring back a oldie but goodie. But at the end of the day, Sasha and Bayley smashing everybody with chairs is a good bit for now, but I'm curious to see where it goes, right?
Yeah, me too. I was really amped up. So as Raw went off the air, I was pumped. And as we headed into SmackDown, I was excited to see how they're going to handle this. And we'll talk about what happened on SmackDown and why I hated it. But I was excited. I was like, all right, cool. This is a character that you have screwed up royally. Now you have a chance to make it right. And the crowd was into it. The crowd loved it.
Yes.
And then we had SmackDown. And we'll talk about SmackDown in a little bit.
Yes.
What did you think about Baron Corbin getting another win? It's becoming a higher possibility that he is going to win the King of the Ring.
Yes, and after his loss with Lacey, they've utilized him perfectly. We had a little time away from him.
Yes.
He's come back to the ring. He seems like he's much more smooth, much more calculating. He's selling better. Everything's better.
So this is what I'll say, all right? And I noticed this about him a few weeks ago. So not only has his ring attire changed, he physically has changed. He used to be a little bit soft. He's firmed up. He looks more tone. He looks like he's in better ring condition. He looks like he's in better shape. It looks like he's selling better. It looks like he's moving around the ring much more fluidly. I'm not sure what happened in, what was it, maybe a month, maybe 2 months away. I'm not sure. But he looks light years ahead of where he was. He looks so much more improved. And it's because of this, right, that I believe he's going to win the King of the Ring. He had a uni change. He had a time away. He's come back in much better shape, and Vince likes his guys in shape. Vince also likes tall guys. Baron Corbin is a tall guy and a former football player. He likes to sell that and cram that down your throat. It's these reasons that I feel like Baron Corbin is going to win the King of the Ring. On top of that, he is a heel that everybody hates. Everybody universally hates him. On top of that, you are now setting him up in a triple threat match against one of the most explosive athletes in Ricochet, one of the more devastating and fearsome athletes in Samoa Joe. If he comes out of this triple threat match, the winner, he's going to win this damn thing. It'll probably be him versus Chad Gable when it's all said and done, and he will beat Chad Gable.
Yes, King of the Ring has been epic. It's been a bit now that it's kept people engaged and has brought people that maybe we would have been overlooking into the fray. And on SmackDown, when people are chanting for Chad Gable, that was crazy. And
that was awesome.
Yeah, I just thought that Baron Corbin and Cedric Alexander put on a decent match for television.
They did.
It was solid.
A really good match. It was a really good match.
Yes, it was.
So AJ's like super over, right?
They were chanting in Baltimore. Yes.
So AJ comes out and interrupts this weird contract signing between Braun and Seth, and the crowd lost their shit, like legitimately went crazy, and the OC's kind of over, and there's a little bit of a disconnect because AJ is like heads and tails over, the OC is just kind of there. What has to happen? What do you want to see to help get the OC over, like the entire OC, not just AJ? Like we all know AJ's over, but how do we get Gallows and Anderson on that level? What has to happen to help solidify this group? Because I like them running around beating people up. I think it's great.
Yes, very good. I think they need a nice female valet. You know, someone that can come in, be a talking head, somebody that can be like an advocate, someone that can be their like business partner, or someone that can move things forward. Or they just need to wait. They need to continue their reign of dominance until they meet and eventually add the best member of the club, Finn Balor. That's what they got to do. Yeah, they got to add Finn Balor.
I want them to add Finn Balor as well. For me, when I see this group, right, and I see them doing the 2 sweet signs and all that, I love it. I think it's great. For me, you need to go back to that, though. You need to be more like the old NWO, where you just didn't care. You'd come out, you'd interrupt promos, you'd run roughshod. I don't necessarily need you to spray paint people's bodies. We don't really need that, but I wouldn't be opposed to you taking a can of red spray paint and spraying OC on somebody's chest. I'd be cool with that. But I need you to be more like old school NWO than whatever this iteration is. I think if you could turn this somehow into what we were getting in the mid 90s there when wrestling was crazy, I think that would sell. I think that would be hot. AJ's the face. AJ's your Hulk Hogan, right? You can package this, you can sell this, you can do it right. I loved what AJ said about him having the Universal title and he should be next in line, because that is the secondary title. That is the title that makes that is the springboard to get to the Universal Championship. It shouldn't necessarily be Braun. When you really break it down. So everything AJ said in his promo was spot on. I loved it. I need more of an NWO vibe, more of a faction feel. Really and truly, what this feels like right now is it's AJ Styles, and then it's his two heaters. It's his 2 lackeys, the guys who are carrying his bags. Overall, what'd you think about Raw?
Overall, entertaining show. I liked the way the show was paced. I was entertained. The matches were good. Overall, it was a good Monday Night Raw, and especially when we compare it to SmackDown, vast differences.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good show. I was entertained. I think what really saved it, though, was Bayley turning heel and beating the crap out of Becky. When you really think about it, I think it started hot with the Seth and the Braun contract signing getting interrupted by AJ, and then I think it finished even hotter with Bayley turning. In the middle, I think it gets a little bit murky. SmackDown, a little bit different. I absolutely hated what they did with Bayley on SmackDown. You just turned an all-time face, and now you bring her out on SmackDown after giving her it was a great vignette that they put together. They do a fantastic job with their vignettes. They put a great little package together, and they introduce her. Bayley comes down to her original music, which I didn't understand that, with the little inflatable tube men. Didn't understand that. And she cuts this promo where she justifies her actions. You just beat the living crap out of the hottest face in your promotion with a chair. I don't need you to justify why you did it. I don't care why you did it. Okay? I don't need to know that you're selling this to little girls. I don't give a shit. I need you to be the heel that you are, and I need you to lean into your heel. I need you to be bad. Embrace that. The fact that she came out and the crowd erupted for her, and then the crowd booed her, and then the crowd erupted for her, and the crowd booed her, and she played with that. I loved it. I loved that. I thought that was awesome. That was Bayley controlling the crowd and controlling the mic. I loved it. Everything that followed after she was like, well, this is really confusing, guys. Either you love me or you hate me. After that, it was all garbage. All garbage. I don't care that you're trying to be loyal to your friend. I don't care that you're packaging this to small little girls. I don't care about any of that. You just took a steel chair to Becky Lynch's back. Lean into that. Be that bad guy. Macho Man Randy Savage was her idol. She looked up to him. That's why she does. She has a little elbow drop, and it's for Macho Man. I need you to be crazy like Macho Man was crazy, right? Maybe not to that level, maybe not that intense, but I need you to be a bad guy like Macho Man was a bad guy. Macho Man was the greatest heel ever. I need you to be that. I didn't get that. I basically got reasons why you did what you did. I don't care why you did what you did. I need you to just lean in to what you did. You know what I'm saying? Be the bad guy. Embrace that. Don't try to justify it to make it okay. That pissed me off. That made me mad. I was very upset. WWE has screwed her character up since day one, since she's been called up. They missed the boat when she was a good guy, and now they're missing the boat even more when she's a bad guy. And that makes me mad. Makes me very, very upset. Overall, though, WWE, what I think WWE is doing with the women's division is awesome. If you go back to NXT days and you go back to the women's division, it was the four horsewomen. It was Becky, Bayley, Charlotte, and Sasha. It was those four. And now those four, you knew at some point those four were going to be the top of the women's division. They were basically the light that was going to carry the torch for all of the ladies. And now, right now, at this exact moment, they are heads and tails the tops of the women's division, and I love it. And it really feels like there's a lot of gray characters here. There's really no good guy, bad guy. It seems like there's a lot of gray, right? Like Sasha's kind of a bad guy. Charlotte's kind of a bad guy. Becky's kind of a bad guy. Bayley is kind of a bad guy, right? But they're all just shades of gray. One just happens to be a little bit darker than the other. Do you know what I'm saying? I love what they're doing right now in WWE with the women's division.
Yes, there's potential for exciting matchups, intrigue. The matches that are taking place, though, in the mid-card got to be a little bit better.
Absolutely. I agree with you 110%.
Yeah, they do. It seems like they're throwaway matches. A lot of times they just feel like they're rushed and not enough time to get their stories across.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's discuss King of the Ring. 2 big matches on SmackDown. I was a little bit surprised, and I stayed. I stayed for this entire match. I stayed for the entire match. I wanted to go take a shower real quick, but I sat through this entire match, and I wouldn't leave because of Ali. Was it the right idea for Elias to go over Ali?
Yes, I think it's time that Elias gets a fair push. Ali definitely is going to have a chance. He's been featured in some prominent matches. I think Elias and Chad Gable and Baron Corbin and Samoa Joe, those are all guys that in this King of the Ring are in the right spot.
Seeing how things played out later on in the evening, I think it was the right call. At the moment, I did not. Again, I was surprised that Elias won this. I thought Ali was for sure going to go over. Speaking of that match that occurred later on, Gable goes over Andrade, and the crowd loses their shit. I loved it. I love seeing the crowd turn because you see Chad Gable just get basically eviscerated by everybody about being short, which I think is a dumb thing. And he goes out there and he puts on a hell of a match with Andrade. Andrade is great. Puts on a hell of a match with Andrade and gets a big sneaky win. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but every win that Gable has had in the King of the Ring has been some type of sneaky or slippery win. It really seems like he's doing this by hook or by crook, and I love it. It's the whole underdog mentality. He's the underdog in all this, and I think it's great. I think the crowd is now behind him. I think he's going to get a monster push. Don't be surprised if Gable beats Elias to go on to face Corbin.
The most shocking haircut in the history of the WWE.
Everyone's I like his haircut. You don't like his haircut.
The other one was better.
I like his hair. The long hair?
Yeah, I thought it was better.
I like the short hair better.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. I like short hair better. I think it's cool. He looks like he looks like he's 12.
Yes, exactly.
He does. We ended up getting some closure here, I think, or maybe we got some continuation. This whole Roman Reigns, Eric Rowan, Daniel Bryan saga. What did you think about Eric Rowan and his promo? I love this. I thought this got me reinvested in this whole storyline.
Exactly.
I hated the storyline. This got me reinvested.
I like the fact that he told Daniel Bryan nobody tells him what to do, some physicality. And actually, Roman Reigns, Eric Rowan could potentially be a new, fresh matchup that could potentially launch Eric Rowan into a singles career and reestablish him as a dominant force. And it's not a bad way. It's surprising. So,
he cut a great promo.
Yes.
But let's just talk about his promo real quick. He cut a fantastic promo.
Very solid. Yes.
He carried that entire segment. He himself. Daniel Bryan was there and Roman Reigns were there. But he carried that entire segment. He outshined two of the biggest names in not just WWE, but in wrestling. He outshined both of them. He carried that entire segment and made it his own. I was blown away. I was impressed. I was invigorated by this. I was like, I love this. I hated this for weeks now. I thought this was the dumbest thing ever. He got me back in. He took his little hook and he put it right here in my mouth, right here, and he sucked me back in.
Good job.
I got sucked right back in. I loved it. Yes. I absolutely loved it.
But by and large, that promo and the Chad Gable match did not make it so that SmackDown won the week. You still think Raw gets the point?
Yeah, I'll give Raw the point. It was close. It is very, very close.
Yes, I agree. Very, very close. But Raw was the better show this week.
Yes. By like a smidge. By a smidge.
All right, you got a stacked lineup here. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes to end the podcast.
All right, so I wanted to tell you about how the AEW Championship belt of Chris Jericho's went missing on Monday, as he reported it stolen to the Tallahassee Police Department. But it seems as though the Tallahassee Police Department doesn't understand how storylines in wrestling go. So apparently there's this Twitter picture of the Tallahassee Police Department posing with the championship belt that they tweeted out, and they have the belt. This was all the work. It was all a storyline, and it would appear as though the Chris Jericho now has his new championship belt back. This was interesting because as this was unfolding on. Word really got around late Tuesday afternoon because the police report made its way out, and people were kind of dissecting the police report, and then everybody starts asking, because it is wrestling, you always have to ask yourself, is this a work? Am I getting worked? And I was like, well, there's a police report. You can't fake a police report. It was a legitimate police report. And it turns out we were all being worked by Chris Jericho, AEW, and the Tallahassee Police Department. So, the belt is not missing. Sticking with All Elite Wrestling and the All Out Fallout. So it appears that there was a backstage incident between two of the female competitors. According to Squared Circle Sirens, Casey Michael, B. Priestley and Sadie Gibbs had a fight on Saturday night after the pre-show Casino Battle Royal. Michaels is reporting that Sadie even swung on Priestley during the backstage altercation. It appears this all stems from an issue that took place inside the ring during the pre-show bout, where Bree clubbed Sadie in the back, and Sadie hulked up during it and then hit Bree with a press slam. Bree no-sold the press slam and then eliminated Bree eliminates Sadie from the match. And then this escalates in the back. So a little bit of a kerfuffle there. Interesting to see what's going to happen to both these competitors going forward. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, if you guys aren't familiar with Marty Scurll, you need to get familiar with him. His contract with Ring of Honor is due to expire in November. And this is incredible because I'm expecting him to go to AEW. He was part of the Bullet Club with the Young Bucks, with Cody, with Kenny Omega. He was with all those guys. Their contracts all expired at the same time. His contract continued until November. I expect him to take Villain Enterprises and go to All Elite Wrestling then. Speaking of Finn Balor, we talked about Finn earlier in the show. Finn Balor will most likely be coming back to WWE in a few weeks, maybe a month and a half. And when he does, he may be bald or have a shaved head. In a recent photo of Finn, he looks like he's at peace as he practices some Buddhist Zen meditation, and he does it all with a shaved head. The internet lost its collective crap on Monday and Tuesday when this photo started making its rounds. So be on the lookout for Finn Balor. Said no hair. Triple H doubles down on Vince not interfering with NXT when it goes to the USA Network. Triple H said of Vince, he's also smart enough to understand the things that we do and where they go and how and the pieces of it. If you're asking the simple term answer, he's not involved. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's going to have some say in some things as far as like the brand sits and the marketing of it with USA and clearly whatever he wants us to do at the end of the day. But at this point in time, he's basically just said, go make this thing a success. So Triple H is saying Vince will not interfere with what's going to take place on NXT on USA Network. So we'll see what happens there. Speaking with NXT, according to WWE, there is no interest in bringing back Enzo and Cass for NXT on USA. This was making its rounds late last week. According to WWE, they don't want Enzo and Cass back. Enzo and Cass really bothered a lot of the guys in the locker room, and WWE says they don't want them back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Speaking of interesting, and an interesting development, Ric Flair, LLC, filed for The Man trademark on 8/26. This explains some of the jostling and the joisting back and forth between Becky with Rick and Charlotte. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to play out because the Man gimmick has been Becky's now for a little bit. So Rick going and filing for an LLC makes this kind of interesting. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Sheamus is still recovering from a neck injury, and he recently stated that he feels ready to return, but doesn't know when the doctors will give him the go-ahead. Currently, he is waiting and he's training, so he will be ready when he can come back. And that's this week's Wrestling News and Notes.
Great podcast. Thank you, cuz. I really enjoyed talking professional wrestling with you. We got all our belts here, still on the wall. We have all our gimmicks in place. Nothing is going to derail the project here. Support those who support us. Dennis Farrell announced he's got a new co-host of the Wrestling Perspective podcast, and it's none other than maybe someone in the mix for the NWA World title. Eli Drake will be doing a podcast with Dennis. Look for that at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Follow Dennis on Twitter at Dennis77Farrell. If you liked or disliked any of our takes regarding any of the shows, feel free and download the Flick Chat application. It's where you can go to chat with all the wrestling fans, all the hardcore marks, and all the hardcore wrestling fans. Detroit Sports' newest headquarters, the Flick Chat application. It's also where you can push and play directly the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. See you later, cuz. I enjoyed the conversation.
Take it easy, homie. We'll see ya.